Hey everyone, I'm back from Summer Game Fest where I got to play Sonic X Shadow Generations. I put out a preview over the weekend and a lot of you seemed to really like it and you had some questions for me and thankfully I'm here back home to answer them. Let's start with this first question from Rising Revolt, which asks, did you record your own gameplay or did you get this off of someone else? This is a good question to start off with because I'm going to set the record straight. I did not get to record my own gameplay. Instead, Sega PR sent me B-roll to use for videos like this. So everything you're seeing here is B-roll. It's not anything that I have played. So please stop yelling at me in the comments to use the dash button because I'm not the one who's playing this game in this footage. That's also why there is no HUD. There's not even a marker to indicate homing attacks. It's just all straight up gameplay, no HUD whatsoever. Now let's move on to this question from Roto3, but a lot of you asked this. It says, Modern Sonic got Drop Dash too? Yes, that seems to be the main takeaway everyone saw from my preview, which is that not only does classic Sonic have the drop dash in this game, but modern Sonic has it as well. I didn't realize how much of a fan favorite move this was in the Sonic community, so it's really cool to hear that you guys have found out from me that this game does indeed have drop dash, not just for classic Sonic, but modern Sonic. I actually don't remember if Shadow had drop dash. I don't even know if I tested that out in my play session. But if you don't believe me that modern Sonic has drop dash, well, GameXcage posted on Twitter modern Sonic using drop dash. So thanks for the proof, GameXcage. Really appreciate it. This next question is from the Grim Reaper himself asking, I'm interested in this game, but I'm wondering how much new content there will be. This isn't a remake, right? Well, no, it's not a remake. It's more of a remaster of Sonic Generations, the game from 2011, which originally came out on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and there was also a 3DS version as well, but that was pretty much a completely different game. It did have a Biolizard boss battle, though, so that's coming back in Sonic Shadow Generations, although it's different here. The biggest selling point of this game, though, is not that it's just a remaster of Sonic Generations. You're also getting a new sub-game, kind of, in the form of Shadow Generations. Hence the name Sonic X Shadow Generations. Anyway, this has its own story, it has new levels, it has new gameplay elements. Shadow has a Chaos Control style homing attack that warps through some hazards. He even has Chaos Control powers that slow down time, making for some unique platforming sections. Although he plays very similarly to modern Sonic, he still has little differences like that. His campaign also has its own open world hub area, which looks wicked cool. I didn't get a chance to see it in-game, but there is this screenshot right here, and it looks so rad. So if you want to compare this to anything, it's kind of like how Super Mario 3D World on the Nintendo Switch also got the Bowser's Fury sub-game. So this is a very similar situation, but with Sonic. This was also asked by Tonio So Fly. My only question is how many levels are there for Shadow since they're pushing the $50 to $60 price point? So we don't know for sure how many levels there are yet, that number has not been given out, but Sonic Team boss Takashi Tezuka said in an IGN Live interview that the Shadow storyline is not going to be as lengthy as the Sonic Generations main game. Thanks to Fall688 for bringing this up in the reply to that question, because I didn't even know about this interview. But yeah, Sonic Generations is already a really short game if you're just blasting right through it, not doing many of the side missions, so I don't know how long this Shadow Generations storyline is going to be. Maybe 2 to 3 hours is my educated guess based on what Izuka said, but in the end we won't know for sure until this game comes out in October, unless they say something before that. And while you're at it, if you're liking these questions, be sure to subscribe to GameXplain and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all things Sonic X Shadow Generations. So let's move on to the next question. Ral1009 asks, how does he control? Like Forces? Like Frontiers Open Zone? Like Frontiers Cyberspace? If you're referring to modern Sonic, well, if you've never played Sonic Generations, I could say it kind of moves similarly to how he does in the cyberspace missions in Frontiers, although Sonic Forces is a direct continuation of Sonic Generations in not just gameplay but story as well. Although it's been a while since I've played Forces, and I preferably never want to play Forces again, but I do recall the movement in Forces being quite similar to Generations. Although classic Sonic I remember controlled awfully in Forces for some reason. I don't quite understand that because he controlled a lot better in Generations. Sean Anigans 6060 asks, does the Biolizard sound like a monster or like a cougar? I don't know, hear for yourself. I was wondering why they asked this question, so I looked back at old Biolizard footage from Sonic Adventure 2, and I completely forgot that that creature roars like a giant wildcat. But here the Biolizard sounds more like a monster, and actually kind of more similar to how he sounded in Sonic Generations on the 3DS. Matthias Olsen 1523 asks, did the game run at 60 FPS? If it does, then it's a solid game to buy. Yes, the game does run at 60 frames per second, although at my demo station, the shadow section ran closer to 30, and I'm pretty sure that had to do with optimization issues, because as you can tell from the B-roll, it's running at 60, and I saw other demo stations run the game at 60 as well, so I don't know, maybe I had some weird PlayStation dev kit or something. I don't quite understand it. But yes, this game does run at 60 frames per second, much like it does on the Xbox Series X when you turn FPS boost on, and of course, like Sonic Generations runs on a really good PC, or any PC nowadays. The game's like, what, 13 years old? Most PCs should be able to handle this game by now. But this does tie into the final question I have for you today from Ranpan6082 asking, was there any footage of the Switch version present? I'm curious to see how it looks and hope it's not a botched port like Sonic Colors Ultimate. So no, there was no Switch footage of this game present. I don't even believe there's been Switch footage released of this game at all. Of course, this is a question a lot of people are asking because a lot of people want to pick this game up on the Nintendo Switch, understandably so. But what I'm going to say about the Switch port is purely theoretical based on the history of Sonic games on the Nintendo Switch aside from Sonic Superstars. We're talking 3D Sonic games here. I'm fully expecting this game to run at around 1080p, 30 frames per second, maybe even less than 1080p, honestly, because as history has proven with games like Sonic Forces and Sonic Frontiers, those versions ran at 30 frames per second instead of 60 on the other consoles. That's just what I'm speculating. I know that Sonic Generations was an Xbox 360 and PS3 game, and the Switch is technically more powerful than those machines, but honestly, I feel like Sega is going to make sure the game runs at 30 FPS on Switch in both the Sonic Generations main game and the Shadow Generations add-on. I really think it's just going to be 30 because that's just what I've come to expect from 3D Sonic Switch ports these days. Maybe I'm wrong, and at least the Sonic Generations portion of the game runs at 60, but I am fully expecting this game to have a 30 FPS frame rate. Which hopefully it's a stable one, right? Because that game is perfectly playable at that frame rate as we saw on Xbox 360 and PS3. But yes, let's hope that the Switch version is at least a good port regardless. But those are all the questions I have for you on Sonic X Shadow Generations. If you have any of your own that you would like to ask me, post them down below in the comments section, and I'll be sure to get back to them in the replies, or maybe I'll make a part 2 of this video. So, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.